Hey YouTube, John here again. I just wanted to do a quick video on... I did a video yesterday on cheating the highlights, and I just want to show you quickly how I'd go about doing it in camera. So at the minute I've got my camera set to f4 ISO 100 and I'm going to take a picture. Now it's in AV, so as you see I'll just take the picture, right, and you'll see it come up on the back of the screen. And if you have a look, I've got a right little bit of blowout just right there, right? It's a right little speck. Now, and that's centred in AV, so we'll just zoom back. So, I can either do one or two things now to cheat the exposure. I can not care about them two little blinky bits and then just overexpose a stop. Or, I can take another one, a third of a stop underexposed, and see... And there you go, at 1/3 of a stop underexposed in AV, I don't get any blowout whatsoever. So to be honest, I know if I go back to centred on the meter, take a shot, I'll get them little bits blowing out again at the top, look. And now I'm going to overexpose the image, one full stop, so I've overexposed it in one full stop. And now if you take a look at the blowout that we've got now. But I know that when we was on this shot that I only had a right little tiny bit of blowout above the tree, a right little speck. So to go from this to this, if you look at the shadows now, forget the sky, look at the shadows, look at the difference and detail in those shadows that you get. Let me see if I can just zoom in without doing two videos. But there's your shadows now, and there's your shadows with overexposing the image at a stop. So, and because I know that Lightroom on a RAW file can recover two stops of blown out highlights easy, I know damn well that that's going to recover in post-production, and that's a better exposure. So basically all I did was I cheated to find an exposure that wasn't blown out, where nothing was blown out. Then I overexposed it one full stop from that. So admittedly, if we zoom back, you'll see all the blinkies. Sorry about that message on my phone. But you can see all the blinkies blown out now. Now I'm going to show you something else that you can do in extreme contrasty situations. I'm actually going to overexpose it one more click, which is another third of a stop overexposed. So now that image is 1 1/3 stop overexposed. That's one stop overexposed. It shows here, by the way, if you look at that little plus and that minus with a 1. So we've got 1 1/3 of a stop over normal, and then we've got 0, and then we've got 0 what the camera chose, and it had a right little bit of blowout, and I just underexposed it one click just to see if the blowout would go away, which it completely did. So from that shutter speed to this one, we've got 1 1/3 overexposed. So let's just zoom in and have a look. Let's just get rid of this one. I'm not bothered about the two, so if we go there and there. Now, that's a shot that a lot of people would not dream of taking, because they go, oh, you've blown out the highlights. But because we did the test exposure, and we know that a stop and a third slower, well, should I say faster, a stop and a third faster on the shutter speed, there were no blowout. So in all fairness, I know that that picture, them blinking highlights, are no more blown out than a stop and a third. And I know, I'll show you now, I'll whack them on the PC and I'll recover that. I mean, a stop is what I usually use, but sometimes you can use a stop and a third and even a stop and a half overexposed from no blinking highlights to blinking highlights, and you'll definitely be able to recover them, and that's guaranteed. That's the whole idea, oops, sorry, that's the whole idea of the test shot there. I mean, these two little blinky bits there, but I won't care about them anyway. So I'd class that as my exposure with nothing blown out. So if I overexposed it one full stop, that should go to 2/50th of a second from 1/500. well, 3/20th, it must have metered slightly different. And then again, we stopped another third, so we ended up with 2/50th of a second more than this shot. Now let's put them on the PC and see if we can recover them. But what I'm going to do for one final shot, I'm going to overexpose it 2 full stops now. So that image is overexposed 2 full stops over this one where there's no blowout. Look, 1/500 a second to 2/50th is 1 stops, then to 1/2/5 is 2 stops. And I'll guarantee you that that will be able to recover that as well, but it's an extreme is that, but you can see, if we zoom in, you do see how you get a lot more detail in shadows, and it is a way of doing it. Anyway, let's go to the up across to the PC and see what's what. Hi everyone, and as you can see, here's the pictures. Have we got any the warnings on? So we've got the perfectly exposed image with, even on camera this did show a right little blink of highlights here and here, but it was a right spec. So if you look there, we've overexposed the image, then we overexposed it again, and then we overexposed it 2 full stops. So I'm just going to get rid of the centered image here, this one, and I'm going to keep the perfectly exposed and then overexposed 1 full stop. Now bearing in mind, so we're out at a wedding or we're doing a portrait of somebody, we take a picture like this and it looks great, notes blown out, but we think to ourselves, I'd like to take in a bit more detail in the shadows. So let's see if I can get a slightly brighter exposure on the skin tone by overexposing it a stop. Now from 500 of a second to 2/50th is overexposed 1 full stop, which obviously I know because I did it anyway. Now, I mean, this is, to be honest, there's no wrong with that image, but if it was at an high ISO, I'd really want to overexpose it a little bit to bring in a bit more detail in shadows. So now we've overexposed this 1 full stop, and I can guarantee that we can recover these highlights. Now we can do it 1 or 2 ways. We can whack the recovery fully up and do it that way. Now the image looks a bit glary, by the way, because I shot it through a window, and that's why it looks a bit pale because it's the window that I shot it through. We can either move the recovery up full, or we can go turn this down 1 full stop, and let's just brush it and just go. Or we can do it like this, right? It's up to us, whichever way we want to do it. I mean, we could go over the full image if we wanted, and we just turn that off, right? Or we can do it like that, so we've gone before and after, and then we can put a bit of recovery up as well. Like I said to you, we're not going to get it, it's looking very glary because of the bit of that, warm that up a bit, put some white balance on it. Yeah, it's looking a bit glary because of the window. So as you can see, perfectly exposed and overexposed. Now, I'll just reset that one. So that's 1 full stop, guaranteed. From that to that, guaranteed being able to recover it. And like I've said to you, if this was f16 at 200 of a second and I were trying to use flash at 2 meters away, I might not be able to get f16. So I'll go to an f11, which is 1 full stop brighter, and I'll let my image do this, and then my flash might be powerful enough then to illuminate my subject, and then in post-production I'll bring the sky back. But let's see what happens on 2 full stops. Now this is Lightroom 3. These images in Lightroom 4, I'm not going to do it, but Jesus Christ, they recover even better. Really easy. So let's try the recovery. I mean, there, it ain't fully recovered, but the exposure's a bit hot anyway, so we'll knock that down a 1/8 of a stop, right? Then we'll put the recovery up as well. Then we'll pump up the blacks, we'll pump up the contrast, pump up the clarity. So this is 2 full stops overexposed. Look, one from 500 perfectly exposed, 2/50th 1 full stop. I've reset the image, by the way. Then going to 2 full stops. Now if I want to, I can come in here and just do that. If I really wanted to as well, I could go there, but that's too much. Let's now put new and maybe just do it point something like that. And then if it's not enough, just press the O key to show the overlay, and just turn that down a bit. So you would have to do a little bit of tweaking if you overexpose 2 full stops, and I wouldn't recommend 2 full stops unless you really had to, but definitely a stop and a quarter, no worries at all. Get an exposure where nothing's blown out. Don't look at your camera and think, oh, that looks fantastic, because it probably isn't fantastic. It's probably underexposed something to give you, like, this is a very weird scene because you've got a really bright white sky, and that's one reason why you might. So let's just delete the middle one. So we'll go from perfectly exposed to I mean, it looks a bloody bit HDR-ish, that, doesn't it? Let's take some contrast stuff. To something like, well, I might put a bit more on. Yeah, put a bit more on. Pump up the blacks. Bit more, pump down the clarity, put down the vibrance, and as you can see, perfectly exposed, 2 full stops overexposed, and brought it back down. Yeah, you had to do a couple of little clicks here and there, but with the adjustment brush in Lightroom, it's no problem at all. And if this were ISO 3200, I could have took it like this, and it would have been, if these were both ISO 3200 and we zoomed in here, the noise in the shadows would be horrendous on this one, but on this one that I overexposed, there'd be a lot less noise. So I hope this helps on cheating your highlights. I call it cheating your highlights with style, because you're not just taking a picture with your camera, letting them blink and not knowing how much they're blown out. If you take a shot and you know they're not blown out there, then you know if you go from 500 of a second to 250, if the highlights can only physically be 1 full stop blown out. There can't be any more, because they won't blown out at 500. And then if you go 2 stops for 1/250, you know that there can only be 2 full stops blown out. Now, I'm not going to go to Lightroom 4, but you see these images here, they look strange because they're getting shot through a window, so that's why they look a bit weird. But in Lightroom 4, I quickly tweaked them in Lightroom 4, and that even did a faster, easier job by using the highlight slider and the white slider. It just fixed it really, really fast. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope this answers your question. Please comment and subscribe.